Hello, Podfam, and hello, Rachel. How are you today?
I am doing well, Laura. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I've got a cup of tea here with me, and we are going to talk about a really fun topic today. We're going to put our mindset back into when we were in the beautiful country of Thailand.
We're just
What do you-
having a nice full circle back to episode one.
Yeah, I thought, you know what? We are in lockdown number 537 in Ontario. So we need to go to a happy place. And I don't know about you, but Thailand was a very happy place for me.
Yeah, you can never top the happiness of two girls in Donna Sheridan like skirts singing ABBA at a karaoke bar.
That was our peak. We peaked.
It really was. Never really had a party night like that on our trip since. You just couldn't top it.
No, because then life got busy and COVID.
Yeah,
That
COVID
that's all.
ruined everything.
Yep, that's all. So
Yeah.
anyway, as we start off every podcast, what are you drinking today?
I have a ginger tea today because I had like four pieces of pizza at lunchtime and
Nice.
I'm just feeling a little stuffy. Feeling a little stuffy.
Feeling a little bit like stuffed crust?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever find when you eat I'm going to sound so annoying here, but when you eat wheat and it feels like your joints kind of get a little stiff?
Yeah,
Does that
sometimes.
happen to you?
Yeah, occasionally.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's because of the fact that I had five pieces of pizza last night and then had
Mm.
four today for leftovers. So I really did it to myself, but that's why we have ginger tea.
Yes, it makes it all better.
Yes.
Well, I'm drinking something a little similar,
Okay.
and that is a lemon ginger tea.
Oh, there's
Oh
no
yeah.
fancy name for it this time?
No, no, because it's generic. Not
Oh,
proud about it, but
one of those
um
grocery store purchases.
yeah, I didn't buy it, but it was in the cabinet. So um I think for every episode I've either had honey lavender tea, lala lavender, or peppermint, and I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, I think I gotta mix it up. So I dug around in the pantry and found a lemon ginger, so that is what I'm having tonight.
I mean, that sounds fantastic. As I was making my tea today and pulling herbal tea number 20 out of the drawer, I was just laughing to myself a little bit how every episode it's like, "Oh, what are you drinking today?" And I'm like, "Oh, here's my basic ginger, peppermint, maybe some lemon sometimes." And you're like, "Here's a really really fun name for this really really fun tea."
I'm waiting on some tea to come in. I need one more person to tell me what they want, and then I can hit that order button, and then the fun names will be back.
I'm so excited. Just
Oh yeah.
just making sure that my mom's order is on there.
Yes, it is. Don't worry. We don't
Great.
forget about her. I know better.
Yeah, I mean, all she said was iced tea.
Hey, it's
So,
getting warm. It's going to be warm one day. So we need to be ready.
let me tell you. I was like, "Oh, mom, what tea specifically do you want?" She's like, "I don't know. Fruit. Fruit that would be good as iced tea." And I was like, "Okay, there I don't think you understand how big the catalog is, but okay."
And it's okay because then I don't mind when people tell me that because there's always like the go-to favorites that everyone loves for fruit tea. But then they
Mhm.
always throw something new in, and I'm like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get that for that person," and then they can let me know how it is. So it's a good little experiment.
I have a question for you actually, because as I
Yes.
was re editing one of our episodes from the past, I was on the episode where we discussed your tea facts. And
Oh, my
I
tea
kind of
facts.
I kind of wanted to know if you had a tea fact for me today that you could
Ooh.
just spitball, pull out of your pocket.
Oh yeah, I got one.
Great.
So let's talk about one of my favorite types of tea, rooibos.
Okay.
Have I talked about rooibos teas yet?
No.
Also pronounced rooibos, depending on who you are.
Roy
I mean,
Boss.
rooibos. Yes, so many ways to pronounce it. So rooibos tea, one of my ultimate favorites. It is a red African bush tea, and it actually does not have any natural caffeine in it. So it is perfect if you are someone who wants a tea at night or you're super sensitive to caffeine. And one of my favorite things about this tea is when people use it for like building tea flavors, it's such like a smooth, mellow tea that it doesn't matter what you mix it with. Whatever flavor you've added, like lavender or cinnamon, cardamom, anything like that, those flavors just shine with a rooibos, because I find with like the classic green tea, black tea, white tea, yes, people do flavors, but underlying you really have that strong flavor of like just regular tea.
Okay.
Where with the rooibos, you don't get that. You just get this like beautiful flavor palette of anything you've mixed it with. So there's your tea fact for today.
I really, really want a rooibos tea now. Or is it rooibos? I
Oh,
like
I
saying that
hear,
version better.
I know, I hear like people pronounce it differently every time. I say rooibos,
Hmm.
but it's rooibos. It's, whatever you want to call it. It's a really good tea. That's all that matters.
It depends how fancy you want to sound that day.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes. But how are we going to approach the topic of Thailand? Because it's a pretty broad subject, I would say.
Yes, it is. So I'm kind of thinking maybe we'll start with where we actually went,
Okay.
because I mean, there's so many places you can go in Thailand, but we really narrowed it down, and we'll see where it goes from there. We're going to talk about where we've stayed, how we lived, experiences, cost, and then most importantly, some safety and how to be respectful in that culture. How's that sound?
That sounds good, particularly the levels of safety, because we were really, really far from home. So that was very important to us.
Exactly. So
Yes.
let's get into it. Um, so I feel like Thailand is like a huge bucket list place for a lot of people. And honestly, I can't recommend it enough. It's one of my most favorite places I've ever traveled to. What's your opinion on that, Rachel?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar on that, especially when you are a young person who really wants to experience different cultures and to see different parts of the world while still also being, to be honest, on a budget. It's a great place to go where it's like so rich in experiences, but it's also affordable for you.
Yeah, definitely affordable. And to kind of lay it out for our listeners, so we've talked a little bit about the big trip we took back in 2019. And the Thailand leg of our trip, we were there for about 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And we started our trip off in Thailand in Bangkok. So that was quite an experience. That city is massive. It's beautiful. It's so cultured. But
Hmm.
wow, it was a bit of a culture shock for us that first day.
Yeah. On our first night in Thailand, we honestly just had rice
Yep.
because we couldn't find another restaurant. So we just had some white rice.
Yes, we had also just traveled for like 17, 20 hours or so.
Yeah. Was that no, because we went right to sleep when we got there. Wasn't that the end of the day, the next day, after we literally walked from one end of Bangkok to the other?
Yes, it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we didn't spend a lot of time in Bangkok, and I know some people, they love big cities. They want that huge, rush of different people, different cultures, and you're definitely going to get that with Bangkok. Like it's literally a melting pot of these incredible little pockets all over the city of different cultures.
Hmm.
Um, for Rachel and I, we were very much on the same page where we kind of like the slower pace.
Yeah.
So Bangkok was just kind of like a passing through for us. And
Hmm.
it was definitely interesting. Like we did Koh San Road and experienced the craziness of that with,
Hmm.
scorpions on sticks and shows and music everywhere and huge vendors and all that. And it was incredible. But we were like,
Hmm.
oh my God, what did we get
Yeah.
ourselves into?
It was a
And
lot.
yeah, like it was coming from like a super small town where you know everyone to being like on the other side of the world, just surrounded by thousands and thousands of people. We were
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, This is wild. So if you are looking for the nightlife, the partying, that is your city to go. It is so cool. But I think for our travel purposes, I was kind of glad we did the 2 days. And then we were off to northern Thailand up to Chiang Mai.
Yeah, and before we actually jump into that, because we definitely spent a lot more time there, so our Bangkok section's pretty short. But just for people wondering, how tourist friendly would you say Bangkok was?
I'm actually going to say it was fairly tourist friendly
Mm-hmm.
because everyone was so nice. And I feel like there were a lot of people before we left on our trip when we said we were going to Bangkok for a few days. They immediately were like, oh my God, you two are just going by yourself. Like, you're going to get kidnapped. You're going to get like mugged. And
Yeah.
that is so not true about Thailand. Like, they are the kindest people.
Mm-hmm.
And even, when we were lost for 4 hours, when we did ask for help, they were more than happy to help us. And, we were never approached, we never felt uncomfortable. I would rate it a fairly safe city. Obviously, you need to be smart when you're traveling anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would say it's actually a pretty safe place.
Yeah, and honestly, on that note, because we went to Australia and New Zealand right after Thailand, I felt much more unsafe as a woman in Australia and New Zealand than I did in Thailand ever.
Yes, I can definitely agree with that. I mean, in Rotorua, New Zealand, we had walked, 4 blocks to an ice cream store,
Yeah.
and we were followed by a group of guys. And we had to duck into a store, and the shop owner kind of helped us get back to our hostel because we did not feel safe. Yet in Thailand, like we went everywhere and just very safe.
Yeah. Then we get to, I think it was honestly my favorite part of the trip, but we went to Chiang Mai.
Ah, a little piece of my heart is still there.
It'll always be there, especially in that little, was it the Forest Cafe? Was that what it was
Yes.
called? Yes. Yes, it was right next to our hostel, and I'm pretty sure we ate there every single night.
Yeah, I think we did. And so if you are going to Thailand, put Chiang Mai on your list. It is a beautiful, beautiful city. It's a very old city that is actually surrounded by a moat.
Hmm.
And it still has some of the old, I don't know if they're castle walls, but the moat walls around the city. And there is just copious amounts of things that you can do.
Hmm.
And it really is the place for like the expats, the long-term travelers. You really got a good mix of everyone in that city. Yet it wasn't so large that, you didn't feel like you were in Bangkok and couldn't, navigate anything. I think within like less than a day, we knew where everything was in that city.
Yeah, it honestly felt like a rather large town. And one thing that was super great about it was that when we were in Bangkok, it felt like we were really thrust into the life of the people, where in
Hmm.
Chiang Mai, it was more of a mix, where there was still the people who lived there, like bustling around you, like going to work, all of this stuff. And then there was also like a really strong traveler presence. So it was almost like a mix. Do you know
Yes,
what I'm
and
saying?
yes, and also you had a nice mix of like a simple, slower paced life,
Mm-hmm.
yet you still had lots of options. If you kind of want to experience the true culture, it's all right there. But also, if you want to go to a shopping mall,
It's right there as well.
yes. So that was just like the perfect city.
Yeah. And you can also get spaghetti at the restaurant. That was
Yes,
very important to us. Is that every
yes,
so often we were like, I kind of just want some spaghetti.
yes. Now, in our show notes, we are going to list all the hostels that we stayed at, but this one will stand out in my mind forever because it's the most gorgeous hostel we had stayed at, and it was called Hostel by Bed. And
Yep.
right next door was the most amazing restaurant called the Rainforest. Was it the Rainforest? No, it wasn't the Rainforest Cafe. It was
I
the Forest Cafe.
I think it was just the forest. I almost said Rainforest Cafe as well, and I was
I
like,
know.
It's definitely not the Rainforest
No,
Cafe.
but it was this beautiful restaurant. It had a Parisian style to it, yet it was all out in a garden under these gorgeous trees, surrounded by birds. And you had, oh my God, the pad thai there. Still the best pad thai I've ever had in my life.
It was
I'm going to
so
just say it.
good. It was
Nothing's
so
been topped
good.
since then.
Yeah. And we really, really learned how to handle spice on that trip because when we first started, we were like, no, no spice at all. And then by the end of it, we were like, give me the fresh chili peppers, please.
We're like, grate those things on there. Yeah, just throw it on. We can
Just
handle
throw it
it.
right on. It was great. It was great.
Yes.
Um,
So safety for Chiang Mai, Rachel, what would you rate that as?
oh, I felt so safe.
Yes. Yes.
Pretty much everybody just wanted you to have a good time, and you could just ask somebody like where something was, or you could ask them for like advice on where to go, and they would be super friendly. And honestly, they would probably just take you right there if they could.
Yeah, and I swear, some people, if like you needed a place to have dinner, they would just invite you home for dinner. Be like, it's fine, just
Yeah.
come eat with my family. Like they
Yeah.
are so kind-hearted. It's amazing.
Yeah, I honestly remember leaving because we had to, I think we were there for a week and then we had to go down south.
Hmm.
And I remember being so sad that I almost was like, can we just not?
We could have just stayed there the whole time.
Yep. And I would have been happy.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, this hostel was like fantastic. And honestly, it was nicer than some hotels that I've stayed in.
And that was a fraction of the cost. And going back to people who want to travel on the budget, literally your plane ticket to get there will probably equal the same amount of money that you're going to spend your entire trip.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy how cheap things were. And we were really living the high life. Like we didn't stay in any hotels, but really from everything that we read, the hostels were the place to be
Yeah.
because they were so nice.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we had every single meal we just ate out,
Yes,
which,
we we ate every meal out.
yeah, when we got to Australia, that definitely changed.
Yeah, by that point we're like, okay, this is a lot more expensive. One meal cost one night to stay in Thailand.
We're like, we don't have the funds for this.
No.
But yeah, it was great. And especially if you've traveled much and you've been in your fair share of hostels, I think we all understand how valuable it is to have a bed with like the curtain.
Oh my God, I never knew that before.
It was so nice because it was like there was a lot of people in our room, but people were super respectful and you kind of just had a little cubby that you created for yourself.
Yes. Yes, I think there were about 10 girls. So we were in a girls' dormitory, I guess
Mhm.
at that hostel. So yeah, there were about 10 beds and you would just close that curtain at night and you were like literally in your own little bedroom.
Yeah, and I think everyone was super, super respectful. I don't think we ever had anybody wake us up
No,
at
I don't
night.
recall that at all.
So, I mean, we did like bring earplugs, guys. Just bring earplugs.
Yes,
It really helps.
that is something that is a requirement if you are staying at a hostel. Earplugs, just get them. Bring a few.
Yeah. So that's on accommodation, and we even touched a bit on food.
One of the most incredible experiences that we did was go to a Thai cooking school.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And this is the great thing about staying at hostels is because you're going to meet lots of different people who are there doing experiences. So, it's so easy to talk to them and figure out, what's good to see and to do. But even the front desk of your hostel, like they have countless brochures and they know exactly where to go. And we had a free night that we didn't really have anything planned.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I remember we had just gone up to the front desk and said, "Hey, what's something that we could do tonight that would be fun?" And they're like, "You need to go to this cooking school." And
Yeah.
that was so good. So how that worked was we had a van come pick us up right at our hostel, so we didn't have to worry about trying to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And they dropped us off at a market, and that
Mm-hmm.
market was massive. Like honestly, take 3 Walmarts and just put it all together. We helped our teacher, the head chef, buy all the ingredients. And then we got back in our van, went to their house, and then just started cooking. And oh my gosh, the things that we learned was so amazing.
I still have that cookbook and I
Oh,
really
me
want to
too.
make
And I use
something
it.
from it.
Yeah, like we actually got to go home with a cookbook. And, you know, to this day, we can make all of these dishes now. So that is something. If you are going to a culture that is different from your own, sign up for a cooking class because you will not regret it. And then I found after that, when we were going out to eat at different restaurants, I had so much more appreciation of what I was eating because when we were at the market, they were really giving us a lesson about some foods that we typically would never see back
Mm-hmm.
home. So, you know, when you saw it on the menu, you're like, oh, that's what that tastes like.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That was a really great thing, and I don't think it was very expensive either. I think it was like $20.
No, it wasn't expensive at all. And I just remember that that market was the first time where we got dried mango.
Oh my god,
Oh, it was
mango!
so good.
I think we just lived off mango.
We really did. So that was a really, really fun night that we had. But we also did a lot of experiences where ethics, I think, was a big part of what we had to consider.
Hmm.
So there were three things that we did that kind of we needed to touch on ethics for, one of which maybe we probably shouldn't have gone to go and do, but that's okay because you make mistakes sometimes. So we went to a night zoo and we went to go visit some tigers and we also went to go and visit the elephants.
Can you guess which one was the questionable one out of those three people?
Everyone is going to say the tigers, but it was actually like a good place that we went to.
Yes, and you know, animal ethics are definitely priority if you are going to be doing any experiences. And that's why we actually had researched where we were going with the tigers and the elephants before we even got to Thailand,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, you really do hear awful, awful horror stories. And we did not want to be supporting those kinds of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's definitely like they're not all bad. Some people might say that they are, but when
Mm-hmm.
you really do your research, you gotta really sift through a lot of bad businesses, but and you do find the ones that are actually places that are rescuing these animals. So just disclaimer there, like make sure you do your research before you select any experiences in Thailand because there are a lot of questionable ones out there.
Yeah, especially with the tigers, which just emphasizes the need for research even more.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Before we get into like the tigers and the elephants, which were like the awesome experiences, we're just going to touch briefly on the night zoo because it was just a zoo. We were like, "Oh, this would be a cool thing to go and do." And majority of it was okay. Like it was just a regular zoo. I mean, I know we all have our own kind of feelings about zoos and not loving large animals being in cages, but the one thing that was iffy for us, and we didn't know about it until we got there, was that they almost ran a bit of a circus show within the zoo.
Yeah, and that was something we didn't realize that was going on at that place when we had decided to go. And I think in hindsight, like had we known that there were shows, we definitely would not have gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when we were there and realized it, we decided not to partake in watching any of those shows. And they had like a night tram that went around the whole zoo. That was a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more traditional to, you know, what you would see at the Toronto Zoo or a North American
Mm-hmm.
zoo. So yeah, that's something you definitely want to look into and ask questions before you go. So don't go to the night zoo if you're in Chiang Mai. Don't go to the night zoo.
Yeah, and we're just kind of bringing it up to just reference, when you're traveling, like you're not perfect, and sometimes you make mistakes and you go places that you shouldn't have, maybe shouldn't have gone to, and that's okay. You kind of just take that lesson as it is, and you know better for next time.
Exactly. And on the flip side, I think a lot of people who go to Thailand on their Instagram, you see them with elephants. And this is one, we definitely researched a lot before we went
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't until we started looking and booking experiences that we found out that a lot of this was an issue. So, going back to, you don't know what you don't know. So, that's why just do your research before you go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And with the elephants, it's very important to pick places that don't let you ride the elephants. If they have people
Yes.
riding the elephants, run as fast as you can. It's not an ethical place. So, they might say that they're a sanctuary, but if you're seeing them trying to, you know, make the elephants do shows or get on them, do not spend your money or support those businesses. So the one that we went to, it was an actual sanctuary, and you could read up on all of the different elephants that had been there. There were two there at the time, and they had been rescued from performers,
Mm-hmm.
and they were just living out their lives in this happy little sanctuary that was massive.
Yeah, they pretty much just have a set schedule and they will participate in that schedule whether you're there or not. So
Yep.
that's literally just their life, and occasionally they have somebody come feed them bananas.
Yes. And so, kind of the activities that we got to do at this sanctuary, first of all, we drove through a monsoon to get
Yeah,
there. That was
yeah, that was a
crazy.
lot.
Yeah. I was almost car sick. Like driving on the side of cliffs in a monsoon. I was like, oh dear God, we are not making it to this place alive.
Yep.
But we did make it. And you get to wear these beautiful outfits that are kind of like they're kind of like scrubs, but very
Yeah.
large, very large
Yes.
scrubs. And we got to meet two lovely ladies. And
Hmm.
I think the first thing we did was make them like banana rice balls.
Oh,
So
no, 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 no.
was
That
it, yeah,
came later. We just
no,
fed
that was the
them.
first thing we did.
We made them the rice balls in the afternoon because it was their lunchtime before they went mudding. In the morning, we just fed them
Oh,
bananas.
did we just give them bananas? Okay, I don't remember.
Yes. Yes,
But
and like the little one, literally, she would see bananas and go, her eyes would just like go crazy. She
yeah,
was
she'd
so
freak out.
excited.
She'd be like, "Oh my God, they're feeding me.
Yes.
They just fed me, but I
And
want more."
and it was
And
a super rainy day still. Thankfully, the monsoon kind of had ended by that point, but it was like baby elephant heaven.
yes, and you know, I feel like that a lot of people, when they go on activities, if the weather's not perfect, they're like, "Oh, this is going to be terrible."
Hmm.
But we met a very special man at the elephant sanctuary, and he's actually the reason why we say live like tea at the end of all of our episodes.
You guys
So
are finally gonna hear the story behind Live Like Tea.
this is kind of what spurred on that we need to talk about Thailand, because I'm like, I feel like no one understands what we say, live like tea. So listen up. There was this man, he works with the elephants every day, and he was kind of like our main guide. And being around him was literally being around a ray of sunshine. He just never wore shoes. I think even on the bus
Never.
when he picked us up, he's like, oh, I don't need shoes. I don't like shoes. And we're like, okay, cool.
All right, man.
we have
Sounds
we
good.
have these cheap little flip-flops, but okay.
That broke.
Yeah, that broke 5 minutes after we got there because of all the mud. um
Hmm.
and he brings us under the building, and we're getting dressed to go meet the elephants, and he is like, you guys are in for a treat,
Yeah.
because we just had a monsoon, and this is an elephant's favorite day.
Yeah.
So that immediately turned the mood of everyone around. And we just like, okay, we're going to get wet. And he's like, it's just water, people. It's just
It's
water.
just water.
The elephants are ready to play. And we're like, okay, this is going to be amazing. And, he told his life story about how he wanted to start working with elephants. And I believe it was, he had been 5 years old, and there was a man who would actually walk around his neighborhood with an elephant
Yeah.
and kind of let the kids feed him and pet him. And he would always ask him questions and all that. And that's when he really became passionate about caring for elephants.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why we live like tea, because you should always just find the good in everything. You know, rain is just water. I know I've told myself that millions of times after that.
Yep.
And you just can't let bad things stop you from doing anything.
T would be probably very surprised to know he's on a podcast right now.
I know. I feel like he'd be really excited though.
Oh, probably. He would be like, that's cool as hell. Can I come on?
I know, right? He'd be like, let's talk about elephants. We'd be like, absolutely. Come talk about elephants.
Yeah, but no, he left a pretty big impact on both of our lives, I think.
Yeah. And I think for the rest of that trip, when there was like either kind of a crummy day or a situation we weren't too sure about, we're like, hey, we're just going to live like tea. Let's just do it. Right.
Yeah, one time we literally just ran around in our brand new outfits because we went shopping in Australia in the pouring rain, just because he would probably do that.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
Yep. So if it's rain, just go out and dance in it. That was what we learned from tea.
Yep. So if you're going to Thailand, hit up Elephant Heaven because it's the shit.
Yes, and we will put the name and contact and everything down. So if you're going to Thailand, you can meet T as well.
Yep, he's probably still there because he 100% has dedicated his life to those two.
Yes, he has.
And I love it.
Yes.
All right, well, that's the elephants. Cost wise on that, I think it was max $100 a person.
I think so. Yeah. It was like the most
Yeah.
expensive, one of the most expensive things we did in Thailand.
Yes. So the elephant sanctuary that we went to, it was like a subgroup of a larger sanctuary. We wanted like an experience where we spent the whole day with them. So if you're just going for, the 1 or 2 hour experiences, then yeah, just book it when you're there. But if you want to do that like day long thing like we did, we booked probably like a month in advance.
Yeah, you want to definitely make sure you're guaranteed a spot, especially like, going to ethical sanctuaries. I think there were about like 10 people on our trip, and
Mm-hmm.
we got lunch there. We had snacks, and really we spent the morning like just feeding and walking around with the elephants. And then in the afternoon, after lunch, we had made them their little rice ball snacks. And then we had a huge, massive mud fight with elephants, which was incredible.
Yeah.
We were covered head to toe in mud. Um, but that was something that people don't get to do when it's not raining. So that was a very special treat. And then we all got to
Mm-hmm.
go swimming in the river with the elephants.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have never seen a baby elephant slide down on her belly
Oh.
into a river, your heart will just burst. It was so cute.
Yeah.
Although you have to watch out for the stampede.
Yes. So that definitely it was like so fun, but there were a couple times where when we were playing in the mud, I was like, I might die today.
I know, you're like, I might just have an elephant roll on top of me, but it's fine. It's a good way to go.
It's fine. But I was looking on my phone the other day and I have a picture of like the baby who is basically just doing a downward dog face plant into the mud at one point.
Uh,
Just for fun.
yep.
Just for fun.
Yep. So 10 out of 10 recommend that experience, but do your research before you go.
And make sure that you already are living like tea before you get there.
Yes.
So that was one of two super impactful experiences for us. And the next one, it's going to sound controversial, but you have to also hear us out about why we decided to do this. So we went to go and visit tigers. So this was one of the experiences where they would let you go into the cages with them, and if they had cubs, you could go and play with the cubs. And correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, but you and I were very iffy about this
Yes.
before we got there
Yes.
because we like we're super animal oriented, like we really really love animals, and we, like heaven forbid we contributed to a place that was abusing their tigers. That wouldn't have been okay with us.
Yeah. And even when we got there, we had decided, okay, like if something doesn't seem cool, then we're gonna leave.
Yeah, and we did our own research, but who really kind of like turned our perspective into being completely okay with going to see these tigers was our tour guide that day,
Mm-hmm.
who we literally wound up with her like so randomly.
Yes, and she was amazing, and I think I still have her business card. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to dig that out and we will put it in the show notes because she was so knowledgeable. And any questions
Mm-hmm.
we had, she was happy to answer them. And she was just a wonderful person.
Yeah, and it was literally just the two of us, so she just carted us around even to places that weren't on our itinerary that day,
Yeah, she was just like,
just
you,
because she wanted to.
yeah, she was just like, I don't have anything else booked today. You guys want to go for a drive? We're like, okay, sure.
Okay, sounds good. But yeah, so we honestly drilled her for the entire drive because that was her job, was literally to take people back and forth to this place. So she was very knowledgeable about it. And she was a secondary party. Like she wasn't connected to it. It wasn't like she worked for, what was it called again?
I don't want to say the name in case I say the wrong one because there is one that's really bad and I would just hate to say that name
Yeah.
and we say the wrong thing. So we still have that card, that ticket though too. So we will put that in the show notes as well. Just I just don't want to say it just in case I say the wrong one.
Yes. So, like, she didn't work directly for that company. She was an external travel, like, I guess, agent in a way. So, it wasn't like it was a enticing or an incentive to lie to us. And she, like, explained the legal side of things and what those kind of places, how they are required to treat their animals. So that was really, really good because I don't want to say the wrong thing either, but there, let's just say there's lots of regulations in place that keeps them safe.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
and then just a little bit of background on the actual tigers that are there. So it was very interesting to learn that most of them, like all the ones that you could be around, they had been born in captivity,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and any tiger that had been rescued, um, they actually lived in a separate part of the sanctuary. And I remember there being like a fence with like little window cutouts that you
mm-hmm,
could kind of like stick your face in and see them
mm-hmm,
out in this huge natural habitat. So they actually don't connect with the public at all.
mm-hmm,
And when a tiger turns 5, they are considered full grown and then become more aggressive. And that is when
mm-hmm,
the tigers that are available for people to see, they would then retire essentially, and they go to live in the other sanctuary.
mm-hmm. So it was kind of like a nature park.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was sort of how it started, was that the tigers that they had brought on, that they kind of rescued, they weren't able to survive.
yeah, it's not like they could return them to the wild.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was. And we also kept a pretty strong eye on their keepers as well, just to make sure, like, okay, how do they treat them? And it was like literally watching like a man with their dog.
yeah,
Like
like
it was like such a friendship.
yeah, the connection that they have is pretty amazing, I thought. And there were
Yep.
special rules, being in the cage. And I know like
Mm-hmm.
my heart was pounding out of my chest. When
Yep.
we didn't even see the largest tigers when we were there. They got bigger. But,
Mm-hmm.
we had a comfort level of, okay, if I'm being taken
Yeah.
down, I don't want something too big.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there's something about literally just like a tiger just staring at you.
Yeah. They'll stare into your soul.
Yeah. At one point, I was kind of like close to one, and then it was sitting down and like just literally staring at Laura.
Yes, I was
And he
taking
got
Rachel's
up.
picture and it got up and started walking towards me and I'm like, "I'm fucking dead."
Oh, I was gone.
You
I
were
was on the
gone. I was
other
just like,
side.
there's a tiger walking towards me and the handlers, they kind of like redirected him a little bit, but he wanted to go talk to like another tiger that was behind me. And I'm like, I think I
Yeah.
almost just died.
Yeah. So it was a pretty impactful experience. Like, tigers are my favorite animal for sure. So it was literally a dream come true for me. And I was also very glad to have had our tour guide.
No, she was fantastic. And I'm going to make sure I put her contact down below so you can hit her up if you are going to Chiang Mai, because she
Hmm.
also took us to like a lot of different places. She told us the best places to eat in town. the best streets to explore and shop on.
Yeah, no, it was really, really cool. And that was, I think, pretty much the last thing that we did there.
Yeah, that's pretty much Chiang Mai.
Where did we go next?
So we hopped on a plane back to Bangkok, and fun thing, Bangkok has two airports, and
Yep.
sometimes your connecting flight will be at a different airport. Um, so yes, we did the north. Love northern Thailand. It's incredible. But we wanted to see more of Thailand, so we went down to the south, down to the islands, and we stayed on a little island called Koh Lanta.
In a nice little Airbnb, and we got our own rooms for a bit and a kitchen. It was great.
Oh my god, it was this beautiful little condo right on the beach, and anywhere else, I don't think we could have been able to afford that.
No.
But the ocean is incredible. It is just a giant bathtub. It's so clear. It looks exactly like all the pictures that
Mm-hmm.
you see of Thailand. And oh my god, it is so salty that you literally just float there.
Yep.
You
It's
don't
not
even have to
very
swim.
it's not very wavy though, so if you want to surf, don't go to Koh Lanta.
Yeah, that was not the surfing hotspot. I think there are different places around the southern islands that are better, but the water was very calm in the place
Yes.
that we were.
It's also super hot
Yes.
down
Oh
there,
my
like a
gosh.
lot hotter than it was up north.
Yes.
So I'm not gonna, this section of the episode might be like slightly boring experience wise because we slept a lot because it was too hot to go outside until about 3 p.m.
Yeah, like we would literally go out between 8 and then by 10:30 we were back inside, and
Mm-hmm.
we would usually stay inside till about like 3 o'clock because it was
Yeah.
so hot. And just for us, like, we're from Canada. We like the heat, but it was over like 40
Yeah.
during like high noon.
Like if it's hot enough and sunny enough for us to get a tan, it's too hot.
Yeah, it's a microwave.
Yes. But one really, really fond memory from Koh Lanta that wasn't just us napping all the time was we kind of became regulars at another restaurant. We really don't like to shake things up that much, it seems.
No, we literally went
That
only to this one restaurant because it was so good and
it
it
was
had
so
cats
good.
everywhere.
And it had cats. On our last morning, we went there and we were like, oh, it's our last morning. Like, this is the last time we'll see you. And we wanted to get banana pancakes.
It had just kind of become our thing. When we were leaving
Yeah.
places, we seemed to always eat banana pancakes.
But this guy, the owner, didn't have bananas. And I am not kidding. He left to go to the closest market to buy bananas just for our pancakes.
Yeah. He was such a nice man. Like, he expected us like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And actually, at when we did have the Airbnb, we cooked a couple meals
Mm-hmm.
for ourselves, but there wasn't that same like food market place that there had been up in Chiang Mai. It was very small. So
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of difficult to get proper ingredients. And so, yeah, we just kind of became patrons at this man's restaurant. And he was like, yeah, girls, whatever you want. Here's a cat you can sit with while you eat your breakfast.
Yeah, it was great. So that's probably my favorite memory from Koh Lanta, really.
Yeah, that was amazing. And it's it's very simple for amenities down there. There are islands that have like a bit more of the beach parties, but because we were doing so much in Chiang Mai, we didn't really want to have like the craziness of
Mm-hmm.
going to like the Moonlight Festival and or the Full Moon Festival, whatever it's called.
Full Moon
So
Party?
that's kind of we yeah, the Full Moon Party. That's why we kind of chose a quieter island. It's got laundry service though. I think it was 25 baht at the side of the road.
Yeah. Um, you might come back and your clothes might not be there. You don't know.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah. So
surprise.
yeah, we it was at the end of our driveway of our where our Airbnb was. So we tossed our clothes in the laundry machine, said a prayer, went to see our buddy for breakfast, and I think we both walked back like 2 times just to make sure our clothes weren't there because they were like
Yep.
literally all of our possessions.
Yeah. So it was pretty great. It was Good times in Koh Lanta. We are pretty introverted too, so like the full moon parties and stuff weren't really our speed.
Yeah, I found like any situation where it was really touristy, we just weren't drawn to it as much. Like we kind of enjoyed the little bit more lifestyle pace of the locals. Like they had great stories and I found them a lot nicer than
Mhm.
tourists. So we definitely had more fun like getting to know them than all the people who are just vacationing.
Yeah, and cost-wise, this was the most expensive part of our trip because we got the Airbnb, but we literally had a whole condo for ourselves and it was like maybe $450
Yeah, and it was a
for the week.
beautiful place. It had air conditioning, it was clean, nicest owners
We each
that
got our own
we
bathroom.
yeah, own bathroom, own bedroom. And I think we had did we have a TV as well?
No, we used your
No.
iPad.
Yeah, we used my iPad. Okay. I'm like, we watched movies, but I
Yes.
think it did have Wi-Fi.
Yes, it did have Wi-Fi. We
Yes.
watched The Emperor's New Groove.
Right. We watched
Right.
a lot of Disney movies on that trip.
Yes. Yes, we did. So, do you have anything else on Koh Lanta? It kind of we were pretty nappy during that part of the trip, so
Yeah, that was just kind of like our actual rest and relaxation leg of Thailand. Yeah, that was pretty much all about Koh Lanta. Safety wise, I felt pretty safe. You are going to get approached a little bit more by like tuk-tuk drivers because that is where all the tourists hang out. So they're going to want to, pick you up and take you places and stuff like that.
mhm.
Um, but never felt unsafe. You just kind of get used to people hollering at you to
Yeah. Yeah,
get
it
on their
like
little tuk-tuk.
yeah, and you kind of come to expect that in touristy areas no matter where you are, so yeah, it was fine. Like we walked home pretty like tipsy one night and we felt perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but
Yeah, I think the main advice is, and I don't know, maybe this is just something my parents have always told me wherever I go is like you just don't go on the beaches at
yeah.
night. You know, stay
Yeah.
stay where the people are. Um, that's just being smart.
Mhm.
But Thailand overall, pretty
Very
safe,
safe.
pretty safe country. Like I can see why people go back time and time again and do solo trips.
Mhm.
Um, because really it's like it's called the land of smiles for a reason. They're literally the nicest people.
Yeah. Well, that takes us to our final point to kind of round out this episode because we can definitely talk about Thailand for like hours. Um, is just our tips that we learn on how to be respectful. So, a lot of this is definitely based around clothing choices because, for one, it's super hot, so you want to dress in fabrics that are breathable. But especially when you're visiting temples or around the local people, kind of like how would you describe it?
Um,
Dress a
for
bit more modestly.
yes, like and it can be that so for temples, you know, they're not going to really say anything if you do show up and you're not appropriately dressed, but I think it's very important before you go anywhere to learn what you can about the culture so you can respect their customs. So if you're going to temples or anywhere sacred, try to keep your shoulders covered, your chest, and try not to wear shorts. That's why like linen pants were our best friend because we could stay
Hmm.
cool, but we were also covered. And it is very hot during the day, but even if you carry around like I think we had a scarf or a shawl
Yeah.
each, and literally if you just wrap that around like your neck and your shoulders when you're in temples, you're good to go. So
Yeah.
just being super respectful about how you dress. Also with your shoes, for a lot of the temples, it's very improper to wear your shoes into anyone's home or a temple. So you will always see like a pile of flip flops or toms or whatever you're wearing outside the door. So just make sure you are respectful and you're taking off your shoes before you go anywhere sacred.
Yes.
And they will be there when you come back. It's okay. It's not like someone's going to steal your shoes.
Yeah. No. It's all It's all good. And then when you get down to the islands that are a bit more party central,
It's
then
yeah, it's very much more like relaxed, like they're more used to how tourists are. But definitely when you're in like the small towns, it's different.
yeah, we definitely got some crochet tops for the islands. Also, like linen skirts, like floor length linen skirts. Good choice.
Best friend. Airflow, excellent.
Yeah. Well, do you have any more tips or?
I think I have one more tip
All right.
where, you know, you should always learn at least one word of the place you're going.
Yes.
And so I think we'll let you know what hello is in Thailand because you will hear it everywhere. And
Yep.
you always have to say it in an upbeat manner because this is how upbeat the people of Thailand are. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is Sawadee.
Yep.
Do you remember that one, Rachel?
I do. I kind of forgot for a minute, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that is how you say it."
Yeah. So if you're going to Thailand, remember the word Sawadee um, because everyone will say it to you, whether you speak Thai or whatever language you speak, and it's just a friendly greeting. They know you don't speak their language, and many of them are very good at speaking English. But I think it's always nice to make an effort. So helps to learn a few words. So there you go. There's your first word on when you go to plan your trip to Thailand.
You heard it here first,
Mm-hmm.
guys. On the tea
Yeah.
with Laura and Rachel.
Yes. Oh, one thing we did not talk about that's maybe important,
Mm-hmm.
vaccinations.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that just came to mind. We had so
yeah,
many vaccinations before going to Thailand.
yeah. Go to like kind of like our in Ontario. It's like Passport Health or something. So there's like certain places that you can go. They're dedicated to travel vaccinations and what do you need. So we kind of went to ours and basically were like, "Hey, we're going at this time. Like, what do we really, really need? Like, what's active? How much, like, are you exposed to something during this period of time or not?" I think there was like one or two that we decided not to do because it was kind of like just recommended, but not really like required or like strongly recommended. But yeah, we
Yeah, for
definitely
us, I think it was like the rabies because like they're like, oh, are you going to be handling like monkeys and stuff? And we're like, no,
no.
not our scene. And also malaria. And that the malaria one was strictly based on where we were going in Thailand. They asked us all the places we were staying, and we were not in malaria hotspots, so that's why we did not get that one. Ones that we did get, obviously, I think we both had to boost up our hepatitis shots, so we got that. We
Mm-hmm.
got the flu shot, and then we got Japanese encephalitis,
Yeah.
just in case, you know,
See,
just in
that's
case.
that one was just scary, and I was like, yeah, I'll spend the money on this.
Yeah, I'm like, that's fine. You can just put that in my body and then we're good to
Yes.
go.
Did we
But
get
then
typhoid fever?
I think, yes, that
That
was the one
sounds
we had to take the
familiar.
pill. Didn't
Yes.
we have to get it? We had that was a shot or a pill.
Yeah.
And then one I highly recommend, and I think I will actually take it before I go a lot of places, was the Dukerol
Yes.
um, drink. So it's like a drinkable vaccine. You drink half of it one day, and then you wait like a few days or a week, and you drink the second dose.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did not have any issues when it came to eating any of the food on our trip. So I would recommend the Dukerol for sure.
Yes. And make sure to do this pretty in advance because I think with the Japanese encephalitis, it was 2 shots and they had to be like a month apart. So just,
Yeah, we had started our vaccines in August and we left in January.
yeah.
So yeah, we definitely had a few months to make sure. And then the Dukerol, I think you take like 6 weeks before you leave. I'm probably wrong on that, but it was a little closer too.
Like, don't quote us on this, guys. We're just saying to maybe start doing it like 5 months in advance.
Yeah. Yeah, just
Yeah,
so you know, you get all of your booster shots in. And then
exactly.
also customs. So you don't really need a visa to get into Thailand. Nothing that you really have to apply for. However, if you want to leave Thailand and go to Australia, you need you need a visa. We did not know this, and Rachel and I like we did our homework before leaving on our trip because we wanted to make sure there was nothing we were missing.
Yeah.
And when you roll up to an airport, and you have to fly to Hong Kong and then make your connecting flight to Cairns in Australia. If you get stopped and told that you can't leave the country because you didn't buy the visa, uh, you'll literally shit your
It
pants.
was pretty scary, especially when our flight left in 3 hours.
Yes. So
Yeah.
we had to spend about $100 each to get like a fast. I think we had our visas within like half an hour. I remember mine took like 31 minutes and yours like was 28. And I was like, oh God, Rachel's leaving the country without me.
Oh my God, it
it
was
was
terrifying.
it was terrifying. So I think when we had looked into it was actually a fairly new thing
Hmm.
that had just come up. So um, always check back right before you leave to make sure
Yeah.
there isn't a visa
Just like
issue.
if you're going to Australia in general, you need it.
Yeah, yeah.
Meanwhile, because we're a Commonwealth country, we just walked right into New Zealand.
I know they're like, oh, you're Canada, get in here. There was like no security. They're like, oh, Canadians, get in here.
Yeah,
We
we
love you.
literally just walked through, like there wasn't even a customs person. But that's a story for another day.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that wraps up our Thailand experience. I hope that you guys liked it because we really, really loved that trip. And we hope that finally understanding where Live Like Tea comes from has added some joy to your life.
Yes. And, if you have any questions for us of what we did in particular, we're going to try our best to put everything that we can down in the show notes of where we stayed and where we went. Um, but if you still have more questions, send us an email.
Yeah.
Get in touch with us because we're here to help if we can and you want to go to this country.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, maybe we open it up if you have any stories you want to share about your time in Thailand. I know I would definitely like to hear them, so let us know.
Yeah, and just it's on the question side and stuff. Like if you have any questions specifically about like the ethics when it comes from like the tigers or the elephants, ask us your questions or like share anything that you want. We're more than happy to hear and to learn. So,
Absolutely.
well, that's the end.
That's the end. So, live like tea.
Live like tea.